Jai Hind, everyone. Now, many a times, all of us might be thinking that India has got nuclear submarines, India has got nuclear weapons, India has got around 24 nuclear reactors. But why are we still begging, borrowing, and negotiating the uranium from every other country? What is the need that India still imports uranium? And what essentially will we get by getting into similar agreements with every other country? The year started when we had agreements with Canada, followed by Kazakhstan, and now Australia. So, what essentially is the need? Why are we dreaming too big? And a country that has been pushing for Atmanirbharta, self reliance in everything, why is that country dependent upon imported uranium? So, this is the puzzle that all of us need to solve. This is something that all of us need to understand. That is, how much are we aspiring? Why are we too ambitious? And what essentially we will gain by importing the uranium from every country. So let us start off with our discussion, and in this we will understand as to why a nuclear armed nation like India does not have enough fuel for its own power plants. So today we will be going to understand, and we will be understanding the entire concept, the entire situation, keeping in mind the historic deal that Australia has signed last week with India. So, understanding this scenario, let us first understand India's nuclear ambitions. Okay. So, now when we have a look at India's nuclear ambition, now, India has been targeting 100 gigawatt electric nuclear capacity by 2047. The current capacity is 8.7 gigawatt electric, that is for 24 reactors. Currently, if we talk about the contribution, almost 3% of total electricity is contributed through this. Now, there has been a role in the energy mix, okay, and this is keeping in mind our aim of net zero by 2070. So recent we have also taken up various policy interventions like the Shanti Act, private sector participation, and small modular reactors to achieve this aim. So if we have to put this entirely into a perspective, the aim of 100 gigawatt electric nuclear capacity is massive. Now, this is nearly 12 times from where we are today. To achieve this, India will have to require roughly 18,000 to 20,000 tons of uranium annually by 2047, which is one third of the entire world's current uranium production. Now, the government has already rolled out various schemes like the Shanti Act, okay, the Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy for Transforming India. So this policy has come up to open the nuclear sector to the private players. But the catch in this situation is that private players cannot do much without reliable fuel supply. Now, this is the reason why Australia, that is sitting on a huge pile of uranium, now this deal with Australia will be a game changer. So let us understand this, that how this deal becomes a game changer for India. Now, if we see the domestic uranium reserves, okay, so currently we might say that around 4.3 lakh tons, okay, which is a lot, okay. Now, even though we have got this number, but why are we still importing? Okay, so this is question. Now, 4.3 lakh tons is not less, okay, across 47 deposits, and still we are importing. So, the uncomfortable truth in this entire situation is that the uranium that we have, okay, the ore that we have is low grade, okay. Herein, if we see the major mines, the Jadugoda mines, the Turamdi mines, and the Tumlapalli mines in Andhra Pradesh, which is actually one of the largest uranium deposits in the entire world. Okay. The problem is the low grade ore. Okay. Now it is, if we have to understand this, we have to think of it like digging for gold in the sand. The extraction cost which is incurred into this is 3 to 4 times higher than simply buying it from Australia or a country like Kazakhstan. Okay, so the production capacity, it meets fuel needs of only around 2.4 gigawatt electric, and ore quality is low grade. Clear? So the extraction cost is very high. So it is not that we do not have uranium. It is that digging out this uranium is economically suicidal for us. And why it is suicidal? Because we already have got cheaper alternatives available to us, even though they are available in the global market. So UCIL is doing its best. UCIL is able to get around 600 tons per year. But we are producing less than one third of our current requirement, which currently stands at 1800 tons. Okay. So the bigger question comes up is that why are we still importing the uranium? That is the question that we need to answer, that we need to understand. Okay. So if we have to see that why are we still importing uranium? Okay. Now in 2024 and 25, India generated over 56,000 million units of nuclear electricity. Now, out of this 56,000, over 39,000 million units came from the imported uranium. This math clearly makes us to understand that around 70% of nuclear power, our nuclear power is already running due to the foreign support. Now, if we want to hit 100 gigawatt electric, we cannot rely on domestic mines alone. They simply do not have the capacity to provide us with that quality of uranium. Plus, the nuclear suppliers group waiver that we had in 2008 had opened the gates for India. Okay. But it essentially took over 18 years to fully utilize it with Australia. And why did we face these problems? And it was primarily due to the bureaucratic hurdles that were created. Now, we are essentially, at this current situation, we are just making up for the lost time that we have already lost. Okay. Now, if we see into this, we have got economic reasons, the fuel split. We have seen the pressurized heavy water reactors, they require mix of, for them, we require mix of domestic plus imports. The enriched uraniums, okay, Tarapur and Kudanikulam, which essentially are running on the 100% imported fuel. Okay. Then the projected need by 2047, it says that additionally we require 8029 tons natural uranium plus 1045 tons enriched uranium annually. Okay. So if we have to meet our demands by 2047, then this is something that we require. Okay. Now, if we just have a look upon the historical and the current imports that we have. Clear? So, if we talk about the historical imports, we got the NSG waiver in 2008, which enabled civil nuclear trade for India. Now, India is the only non-NPT country with this privilege that has been given to us. Okay. So, total imports, there were over 18,840 metric tons ore concentrate, okay, in the form of pellets, enriched uranium pellets, which we got. Current major suppliers are Russia and Uzbekistan. Recently, in the year starting, we had deals with Canada as well as Kazakhstan, okay, and in the 2026 breakthrough, we had signed the deal with Australia, okay. Now, this Australian deal that has been signed, okay, it is not something that is very new. Okay, it just has been operationalized. Okay, the agreement was already signed 12 years ago. Clear? So, in order to understand this, India had imported over 18,000 metric tons of uranium between 2008 and 2025. Now, this entire uranium, okay, was enough to fill several Olympic sized swimming pools if we have to just quantify, if we just have to visualize this. Okay. But you need to understand this thing that we did not have a single deal with Australia until now, because Australia is an NPT signatory and India is not a signatory. Now, Australia had strict rules against selling the uranium to the non-NPT countries. even though the NSG has given us the waiver in 2008 to create the legal pathways, but still it took another 12 years to work out the administrative arrangement with Australia. Now, in order to understand this, that Australia was not very sure as to how we would be using the uranium use. The recent Canadian deal that has been signed, okay, that again has been very huge. The deal that has been signed with Cameco, okay, which is one of the world's largest uranium producer. So we need to understand that we are clearly building a diversified portfolio to avoid over dependence upon any single country. Okay, we need to avoid this over dependence upon a single nation, especially given the geopolitical tensions that have been going on with Russia as well as China in the global markets. Okay, now if we talk about this India Australia uranium deal, okay, so India Australia uranium deal, this basically the agreement was signed in 2014-15. Okay, and the agreement allows to supply long-term supply of uranium oxide for the civilian use. Okay, along with this, it the strict IAEA standards, which is mandates that we'll be using it for peaceful purposes only. Okay, now Australia is sitting on a pile of uranium, so world's largest, around 28 to 33% of global share. Okay, and if we have to see the Australian status, so they essentially, there have been no domestic nuclear plants and all production that they have been doing is only for export. Clear? So on 9th of July, during PM Modi's visit, this deal has been signed. Clear? So this deal was exactly signed 12 years, okay, after the initial agreement in 2014. So now again, if we had understood everything, the second question that comes to our mind is that why did it take so long? Because Australia wanted very clear guarantee that not a single gram of their uranium would be used to make a weapon. Now the administrative arrangements that have been set up, okay, in this situation also Australia and India have been setting up the joint monitoring committee, and that joint monitoring committee will keep directly reporting to IAEA. Moreover, every shipment will be tracked from the mines in Australia to the reactors in India. Even though while the deal was being signed, Prime Minister Modi made it very clear that this deal will open the way for uranium supplies from Australia to India, and it will give new impetus to our clean energy objectives that India has been targeted. Moreover, if we have to understand, so here essentially lies the fun fact in this. Okay, Australia, which has the largest uranium reserves in the world, which is about 1.7 million tons, they do not use it for themselves. They have zero nuclear power plants. Okay, so Australia is essentially sitting on a gold mine, which is only for benefiting the other countries. Moreover, India now becomes their newest, and potentially India will be their largest customer in the times to come. Okay, previously the Indian deals with Canada as well as Kazakhstan have also been made keeping in mind that India becomes the largest consumer, India becomes the largest user. Okay, now what is the significance of this deal? Okay, now if we see that this deal is strategically very, very significant. Okay, now first, this deal brings with us is energy security. Okay, so it will diversify supply resources. Okay, so which will give energy security, and for Australia it will give a major new market of resources. Okay, it will support India's aim of scaling to 100 gigawatt electric target. Okay, it will reduce our dependence on Russia and the Central Asian countries and would complement other clean energy cooperation. For Australia, it strengthens the Quad alliance and the Indo-Pacific ties. Now, this has to be understood in the light that in the recent times, Australia has been making huge efforts to make a good strategic agreements in the entire Indo-Pacific region. Clear? Next, it will diversify trade beyond China and will enhance the strategic partnership of Australia with India. So, this deal is again a win-win for all. Australia now gets a massive new customer. India now gets its own fuel, and it is the classic strategic complementarity that has now been established. Clear? So we need what they have, and they need a reliable partner in the Indo-Pacific region. And recently, with whatever has been happening globally, okay, India has proved itself to be a very reliable partner in the entire Indo-Pacific as well as the South Asian region. Clear? Next, if we see the broader strategic context, okay. Now, in this broader strategic context, if we have to see, now this deal should be seen as a masterstroke. Now, India's long-term gain is not just uranium. The India's aim is thorium. Now, we have around 25% of the world's thorium reserves around the areas of Kerala and Odisha. Now, but the situation is that how will we be in a situation to use that thorium? Okay. Now, to use that thorium, we would require plutonium. And to get the plutonium, we will need to run the fast breeder reactors. Now, to run those reactors, we need uranium to kickstart the entire cycle. So, this is how the things are supporting us. Clear? Now, in the stage one, pressurized heavy water reactors will be in a operational stage through natural uranium. Stage 2, fast breeder reactors using plutonium. Okay, and PFBR milestone has already been at Kalpakkam. Stage 3, advanced reactors using thorium. So India has around 25% of world's thorium reserves. Globally, this will be a phase nothing less of nuclear renaissance. Okay, and it will also mitigate the risk for us. Clear? So the PFBR, if we talk about the PFBR, these are the prototype of fast breeder reactors. Okay, so the PFBR at Kalpakkam was a historic milestone for us, and recently we have achieved the criticality at Kalpakkam. So now it needs plutonium fuel. This plutonium fuel will come from the reprocessing that will be spent fuel from our the pressurized heavy water reactors. Clear? So, in order to understand this entire situation, we need to comprehend one situation that imported uranium from Australia will literally fuel the pathway to India's thorium dream. Okay. Moreover, it is not just about today's electricity. It is finally about achieving the long-term energy self-sufficiency that India has been targeting. So now, if we import, okay, something, okay, then it basically translates into a long-term solution, and in the long term we would not have to import. Clear? So this is why this deal essentially becomes very important for us. Okay, moving ahead, if we talk about the challenges, okay, so challenges, we have the high domestic mining cost, which is 3 to 4x globally. So these are the current challenges that we have been facing, and these are some serious challenges. Moreover, also we need to understand that the global uranium prices have been very volatile. After the Fukushima disaster that took place, the prices of uranium had crashed. But with the global nuclear phase of renaissance that has been establishing, okay, China has been building over 20 reactors. Europe has also been extending the plant's life, wherein the demand is increasing and prices are climbing. So, in order to stabilize the situation for itself, India now needs to lock the prices for itself. Okay. Moreover, domestically, UCIL also needs a massive overhaul. UCIL has been operating the old mines. Okay, those old mines have got low grade, low yields. So the government is now of the opinion that if we allow the private sector participation strictly under the Shanti Act, so companies like NTPC and various other private players could soon enter into the game for uranium mining. Okay, now this is not only about the basic uranium, okay, we do require the enriched capacity. Okay, now enriched uranium, currently we have been importing enriched uranium from Russia. Okay, and with their support, the Kudankulam reactors have been built. So we have our own enrichment facility in Karnataka also, okay, the Ratnahalli. But the reactor in Karnataka is primarily for the naval reactors. So we need to scale it up to a level, to a level commercially, so that we can reduce our reliance upon the foreign enrichment services that we have been using for long. Okay, so if we have to understand the situation, we can see that there have been various challenges, okay, regulatory and clearance hurdles, okay, that have been envisioned to sort, okay, global uranium prices volatility, safeguards compliance burdens in India, and infrastructure bottleneck at the ports. Clear? So these have been various situations that India tries to tackle immediately. India tries to solve these situations immediately. Clear? So ultimately, if the entire concept has to be summarized, okay, the core reason why we have been importing uranium for Australia is primarily economic. Okay, the mining and processing domestic uranium into ore concentrates costs us 3 to 4 times more than importing it internationally. Now, this concern is largely due to the low grade of uranium that is found in India. Moreover, the Ministry of Power, okay, a committee that was set up by the Ministry of Power had already cautioned that the global push towards nuclear power could drive up the international uranium prices in the coming years. Okay, so international uranium prices, they are too volatile, and with the demand increasing every single day, they are bound to go up. Now, this committee, the Union Power Committee that was set up, okay, that committee had recommended that India must consider enhancing domestic uranium production, even if it is costly, to maintain energy security. Now, this potentially can be achieved through additional government equity fusion that is taking place into UCIL to fuel this expansion. Okay. Moreover, India's push to diversify the uranium imports, so from Australia to Canada and Kazakhstan. Now, this ultimately reflects that domestic reserves alone cannot sustain its 100 gigawatt electric ambition that we have set for ourselves for 2047. Okay. Moreover, ultimately, it is the balancing of the import dependence with the long-term investment in the domestic uranium production. If this all situation would be catered, then it is ultimately be central to ensuring both energy security for us, as well as the India's nuclear expansion can also be simultaneously taken care of. Clear? So do let me know what all are your views upon this India's deal with Australia, and how essentially are we able to cater to our needs. Do you think that we'll be able to match our needs or our ambition targets by 2047? So do let me know in the comment section. Moreover, please do scan this QR code and do join me on my Telegram channel, wherein I have been regularly sharing the PDFs and all exam relevant information. Moreover, currently I am also running a Smart Indian Polity NCRT series. Okay. Now, this Smart Indian Polity NCRT series sessions are taken live daily at 3 p.m. And herein, I am covering all Indian polity NCRTs from class 6th until class 12th. Okay. So, class 6th and 7th NCRTs have been discussed by now. You can go to the playlist and you can watch those sessions. Moreover, now shortly I'll start off with class 8th NCRTs, and the actual topics of Indian polity would start now. So, do join me daily at 3 p.m. to build your strong foundation of Indian polity through the NCRTs. Okay. Also, do not forget to claim the price drop offer that is prevailing. Okay, so the GS Foundation courses are available with as low prices as 7,999. Okay, so our GS Foundation batches, which are now available in complete English language, also in our P2I courses, are available at very low prices. You just need to use the code SRM Live. Remember, the admissions are closing on 21st of July for these batches. So please do not miss this opportunity and start your UPSC preparation in the smartest manner. So we'll see you all in the next session. Jai Hind.